split up. We spent half the time in the studio with a producer. We were working with Rusty Cobb. You know that guy? He's real cool. And so we were in his studio in Atlanta, and we had a lot of fun. And he was great, real easy to work with. And we worked with another guy named Jim Ebert. He did Kelly Ripa with us. And yeah, he's the guy who produced Easy with the band before I joined and stuff. And he's great. Yeah, we just had a great time working in the studio because it's cool because you get in with a producer, and it's more than, this is what I discovered working with these guys. It's more than just like they plug you in and they get a good sound. It's also like, okay, for this song we want to do this, or we have this idea about throwing this change in and stuff. They help like shape up how it's going to be. It's like they become like a fifth member of the band. You hear that all the time. It's totally true. Okay, so the other half of recording, what we did was we each have like studios at home, and we're all running on Pro Tools. So we did some long distance recording. So when we were at home and stuff, and we were trying to finish up the record, and we couldn't do it maybe not necessarily on the road, Fred would lay down tracks, and then he'd MP3 them over to us, and we'd drop it into our different Pro Tools sessions, and then like do a high quality track, and then email the high quality track back. So he could take it into his session and then just drop it straight in. And that's kind of like the beauty of like digital recording in the modern age now, with everyone getting Pro Tools. Like I myself just have the most inexpensive unit. I have the M-Box, and it's like the old school M-Box, like 3 or 4 years ago, and then Pro Tools LE. But since I'm only doing like one track, just doing like a bass track, or maybe I'll drop in like a couple of bass tracks for the song I'm thinking of in particular, for Lord Knows I'm Drinking, I just did a single bass track. So I ran my bass into a little PreSonus desktop compressor, very inexpensive, and then just ran that in so I could get a little compression going on my bass, and then straight into the M-Box, which has like it's made by Digidesign, and it's got those Focusrite preamps, and so it shapes up sound really nice. I love it. It was a great investment for the less than $500 that I spent on it, and the $1,200 that I spent on the Mac that I'm running it on. It was like one of the best investments I ever made. So I just ran that in and recorded the bass track, did a little bit of punching in, tried to avoid doing too much because it starts to sound a little choppy. I mean, you can crossfade and stuff like that all you want, but if you go a little too far, anyone who like does any home recording, they'll catch it real fast. So, and then I just took that and sent it straight over to Fred. And it was all long distance, There was no, he didn't exchange anything, no hands changed or anything like that. It was all through the internet and on the computer, which I think is amazing,
And no pains in the butt lining stuff up, like nothing ever got out of sync between any...
No, just dropped it right in. Because, I mean, what you get is, your viewers or your readers, I guess, they're pretty, gear savvy, because we're talking about GearWire.com.
We would hope.
Yeah, so they know what it is. They're sitting there, they've got the Pro Tools session, and... assuming they haven't done anything too tricky that's like beyond what I understand how to do, if you're going pretty straightforward, you take your mix, you do that thing. When you do that thing, it's file. What is that called? Help me out here. It's when you do your bounce. You do your mix down. You bounce down to an MP3, and MP3 is good for that kind of thing because it doesn't matter the quality that you're getting on the receiving end because you're just basically laying down a track to go along with it. So you get that, and he just did like a very low not a real big file, so you could just send it over the internet and you just drop it in, and of course it starts and ends at the same points that it starts and ends in your Pro Tools session. So there's no
So you're not recording into the actual track, you're recording along with an MP3,
right?
And then because you play straight through,
yeah,
the timing's right.
There's no problem with timing. And then what you do is when you're mixing down, all you do when you bounce down is you solo your track, the one that you recorded and that you did all your modifications to or whatever. I can say this, with Pro Tools, I was nervous getting it because it was I knew it was a steep learning curve, and as it turned out, yeah, it took me some time. I had to spend about 6 months really it's like anything. You gotta really want to do it. You have to have a project that you're working on, and then when you do, you run into all the trouble that you're gonna run into, and you figure out how to make it work. So yeah, I mean, but do it. Get the hard stuff out of the way, get the learning curve out of the way, and once you do, you can do stuff it's just really economical. Like if you have a song that you want to do, and you don't have a drum kit at home, or you're not able maybe to record drums, you can go into a studio, say I'm running Pro Tools, can you guys create a Pro Tools session that's got the drum tracks, and then take all of that and take it home if you have a strong enough system, and just record around it. And you save yourself so many hours and so many dollars in the studio, right? Because you can just import it into your house. Or if you really wanted to go cheap, or not cheap, I guess I'm just thinking in terms of you know, you need to have a certain like level of computer
Or
to
it
take
just
all
takes
those tracks
forever
in.
because it's so slow.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, if you trust the guy that's recording your drums for you and you want to like do it on like 3 tracks as opposed to 20 tracks maybe, you know, you can do that as well. Or you can take just like you can bounce it down into like a really good quality like WAV file and drop that in and then record the rest at home. So, you know, it'll save you a lot of money and time. You know, and plus you sweat it in the studio. You know, when you're sitting at home, you can like, have a cup of coffee, do it in your pajamas. You know, whatever. Everything's got its place, obviously. But for like demoing and stuff like that, don't break the bank if you can't. You know what I mean? Like if you're gonna spend $1,200 going into a studio for a day, or you could spend $1,200 like creating a studio for yourself that you take the time to learn how to use. Why not? What do you got to lose? You know. Even, you know, later on down the line, you know, if you wanted to and it just turned out to be a disaster, you could sell all the equipment that you bought for half of it. It only cost you $600 to give it a shot. You'll be wiser for it, for sure.